In 1981, I had a date with my ex-girlfriend, who became my wife after a few months. We watched a movie and dined in a restaurant near the theater. The movie was titled The Man Who Saw Tomorrow, which was a documentary-style movie, portraying the predictions of the popular interpretations of the symbolical writings of Nostradamus. While dining inside the restaurant, in front of the theater, we discussed about the movie. The movie portrayed that the next Great War will be between Russia and the United States. And yet, I told my wife to be, that it will not be between Russia and US. But rather, China will have a head-on collision with the US. Because, the movie was just an interpretation, by other people, about Nostradamus' writings. I told her, that I got this prediction, from one of the books I've collected in the 70s, which were written by a Tibetan mystic psychic monk, who clearly and directly predicted that, the real threat is China. Since the 70s, until now, I've collected more than 1,000 paper books. Many are already missing. Some were borrowed and never returned. Now, my ebooks are more than 100,000. From the year 1956 to 1980. A Tibetan mystic monk wrote about 20 books, with one of his books was edited by another person in 1957, under his permission. Later, he also wrote several articles, and made lectures. This mystic monk was a doctor, a psychic, and a seer, who was trained in Tibet since his childhood, in many esoteric and mysterious knowledges. In his books, he narrated many of his learnings, and experiences, from boyhood to adulthood, in Tibetan monasteries, as well as his studies of medicine, in China. He also recounted, how he was taken as a prisoner, during the war, accused as a spy, and how he was tortured, by the Japanese invaders, while he was in China. After the war, when he was back in Tibet, he was among the many Tibetan monks, taken as prisoners, by the invading communist Chinese, under Mao Zedong. The tortures made by those communists, were far worser than the tortures, done by those imperial Japanese soldiers. Since his deteriorated body suffered so much, and being too old already, and since he was a specially gifted psychic person, all the elder monks from his previous monastery agreed, that he should continue to live, in another body of a conforming person, in order for him to tell the world, what was happening in Tibet, and to describe its culture, as well as to share also his mystical knowledges. Therefore, he and his group, esoterically searched and arranged everything, finding the conforming person. His deteriorated and old body, was put ceremonially inside a big jar. While he was in a meditative seating posture, soils were filled up to his neck height. And they waited for the right moment, helping him to transmigrate, to an English-speaking conforming person. When he was already inside the body of the departed soul, of this previously conforming person, this Tibetan monk adopted the fluency in English, of that departed individual, in order for him to write in English, and to fulfill his mission, through writing books. Later, his transmigrated but also old body, died in 1981. Now, we can read not only his esoteric knowledges, but also many of his unusual predictions. And, in his books, he also wrote many things about the future, concerning China. When he wrote his books in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, China was still considered a poor country then, that nobody would think at those years, that China will be the real threat for the whole world, technologically, economically, and militarily. Many people thought, that the next Great War, will be between the United States and Russia, because of the many writers, and film producers' interpretations, of the symbolic writings of Nostradamus. But, the writings of this Tibetan mystic monk, were clear and direct, such as the following. The Russians will have moved great satellites into space. Soon the Chinese will get into space also. The year 2000 will see great events in space, not always for peace, for there shall be great rivalry, between the branches of communism, the Russians and the Chinese. There will be a tremendous war between China and Russia in space. Chapters of Life, Dr. T. L. Rampa, 1967, page 135. The United States and Russia will combine to defeat China, the new China, which poses a threat to civilization everywhere, and so, the bear and the eagle, shall unite to defeat the dragon, and not until the dragon is defeated, shall there be any enduring peace. Chapters of Life, Dr. T. L. Rampa, 1967, page 138. They also invented the Cold War. However, we are not dealing with politics, but I will say that the danger is not Russia, but China. Chapters of Life, Dr. T. L. Rampa, 1967, page 215.